Hey, have you filed your business taxes yet? No? What are you waiting for? Hi, I'm Patty Sharp, CPA and partner at Acuity. It's that time of the year, and so today I'm going to talk about all things tax. Okay, so I want to cover three key topics: basic business entity types, extending returns, and then estimated tax payments. First, let's talk about the basic structure of businesses. If you're an e-commerce seller, you're probably one of four different tax types. You're either a sole proprietorship, you're a C corporation, you're an S corporation, or you are a partnership. If you are asking yourself, wait, what about limited liability company? We will talk about that in just a minute. Let's start with the sole proprietorship. If you're sole proprietorship, then you are filing Schedule C on your 1040. Your normal personal income tax return has a special schedule, and that's where you put all of your income and expenses. This is really for the most basic kind of business that's just starting out. All right. So maybe before you even knew that you had to file any paperwork or do anything, this is the entity that you're using by default. All right. When you are filing as a sole proprietorship, you're ending up paying self-employment taxes in addition to your income taxes. But the good news is that you get to deduct half of your self-employment tax as a business expense. This tax return is due on April 15th because your personal income tax return is due on April 15th. All right. Next up are corporations, S corporations and C corporations. C corporations are due on April 15th. They are filed on Form 1120 as opposed to the 1140. C corporations, they're used for a little bit more complex businesses. You have to have like a board of directors, and you have to have articles of organization and all of these kinds of things. You'll know if you are a C corporation. When you file this return, you are actually, they call it double taxation. It's true, but it's a little bit of a misnomer in the sense that the company pays income tax. So when you file your 1120, you're going to be paying tax at that corporate level. But then as a shareholder of that corporation, when you get distributions or dividends really from the corporation, you have to report those dividends on your personal income tax return also. So if you're the only shareholder, then you're paying tax at the corporate level. You're also paying the tax individually. That return is due April 15th. The other type of corporation is an S corporation. This is what's called a pass-through entity. The reason it's called pass-through is because the S corporation doesn't pay tax itself. You're filing the return on an 1120S. So instead of the 1120, you're filing it on the 1120S. But when you get to the bottom, you're not usually paying any taxes. All the income and expenses from your business flows through, that's why they call it a flow through or a pass through, to your personal income tax return. And it gets reported on Schedule E, page 2, of your personal income tax return. Nonetheless, you have to file this 1120S by its due date, which is March 15th. The trickiest thing about the S corporation is that you have to remember to pay yourself reasonable compensation. The S corporation has special benefits that allows you to kind of skip over some taxes, but you have to follow the rules very specifically. And if you want to know more about reasonable compensation, I did a video on that. You can go check that out here. This is the number one red flag for the IRS. They will see if you're not paying yourself reasonable compensation, and they may audit you. So if you want to, I can't tell you you're going to avoid audits if you pay yourself reasonable compensation, but this is one way to kind of safeguard against that is by paying yourself appropriately. Next up are partnerships. Partnerships are another type of flow through or pass through entity, which means you're filing your income and expenses on Form 1065 this time. And on the 1065, when you are entering in all your income and expenses, all that information nets out, flows through to your personal income tax return, just like the 1120S does. The reason why people like to choose partnerships, in my experience, is because it's a lot more flexible. There may be some rules that prohibit you from being an S corporation, but allow you to be a partnership. So there are just different reasons why you might choose that. That tax return, just like the 1120S, is due on March 15th. So both of those pass-through entities, they get filed by March 15th, presumably so you have time to get that information into your personal tax return before that is due on April 15th. Now, for those of you who are asking yourselves, wait, what about LLCs, limited liability companies? That's what I am. That is actually a legal designation. That's a legal entity type. For tax purposes, you have to pick one of the other four. So by default, if you're a single member LLC, so you're the only one who is a member of that LLC, then you're going to default to being a sole proprietorship for tax purposes. So you'll be filing your information on Schedule C. If you are, if there's more than one member, then you're going to default to being treated as a partnership. You would have to file an election to be treated as an S corporation. So let's talk about extensions, because I suspect a lot of people are like, I don't have time to get my stuff in order by March 15th or April 15th. Don't worry about it. Don't panic. It's not a big deal. Everybody, not everybody, but many people file extensions. It is not going to be a red flag for the IRS. That was one of the things I heard most often when I was preparing tax returns. The IRS doesn't care if you don't file your tax returns by those initial deadlines. They do care if you don't pay all the estimated tax that's owed by the time those tax returns are due. So please remember that if you are filing an extension, it is an extension of time to file, not a time to pay. IRS gets grouchy otherwise. Something else I want to point out for my e-commerce sellers, I know that nexus is a big issue for you, the economic nexus. Some of you are filing in lots of states for sales tax. You might be filing in various states for income tax as well. If you don't know what in the world I'm talking about, go check out this video I did on sales tax. The concepts are similar. Even if the information isn't very specific for states. You may need to file in additional states for income tax. If you are filing in different states for income tax, make sure that your state returns are being extended, just like your federal return is being extended. Some states have those as just automatic. If you get your federal return extended, the state ones will follow, but maybe not all. So make sure you check out your rules and get all of the returns that you're filing extended appropriately. Estimates, and specifically estimated tax. If you found yourself owing a lot of money this year, do yourself a favor and start paying in your estimated tax payments. The IRS expects you to pay money along the way and not give yourself this artificial loan. They want the money. They don't want you to have it. And so they want you to pay in the taxes owed as you go through. Employees do this through withholding, federal withholding, state withholding. But when you're a business owner, you have to take the initiative to make those payments. So they expect you to pay them in roughly quarterly. The due dates are April 15th for first quarter. So it's not exactly quarterly. They have funky things. April 15th for the first quarter, June 15th for the second quarter, September 15th for the third quarter, and then January 15th for fourth quarter of the prior year. So you're going to want to estimate the net income you have, or really net taxable income, throughout the year so that you know how much those estimated tax payments are going to be. For those due dates, and let me put like a little disclaimer asterisk, I say that they're due on the 15th, and this goes the same for extension due dates, tax return due dates, all of that. Even though the 15th is the deadline, if the 15th falls on a weekend or a holiday, it's going to be the next business day. So if it's landing on, let's say, a Saturday, the tax return deadline is really on that next Monday. Except DC actually celebrates Emancipation Day, and that's on April 16th. So sometimes, every once in a while, you'll find out that your tax return is not due on that Monday, but rather Monday is the 16th, and so it's due on a Tuesday. So it's just funky like that. One thing I want to point out is if you are a sole proprietorship, S-Corp, partnership, any of those pass-through kind of entities that gets reported on your personal tax return, if you are filing one of those and you need to make estimated tax payments, you're going to be making those estimated tax payments on your personal return, not on a business return, because your business returns either aren't standalone or they don't owe tax. However, if you're a C corporation, the C corporation pays tax. So you're going to do estimated tax payments for the corporation on those separate types of schedules. Also, keep in mind when you're planning out your cash flow for the year, make sure that you bake in those estimated tax payments so that you know when those are due and when that cash has to come out to stay on track. Last thing about all this, you can make your estimated tax payments and your extension payments and your tax return payments using EFTPS.gov, which is the IRS's website for handling all those transactions. And you can find a video about how to set that up here. All right. Thank you for sticking with me if you made it this far. If you need additional help, we are happy to help. Please check out the link below. You can check us out at our website, or I have a couple other tips for you. One, check out if you want some like education mixed with snark, mixed with the occasional beatdown, go check out Laura Lynn Wilson on TikTok, or check out Tax Twitter, hashtag Tax Twitter, because they're just, all of them are just amazing and very entertaining. And if all else fails, feel free to go to the IRS website, irs.gov. And there's a link actually to a specific page down there about the things that we talked about. And you can find all the resources and stuff you need right there. All right. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please like, comment, and share. If you haven't already, please subscribe. And I'll catch you later.